The sky turned dark over Seoul at noon, not with clouds or rain, but with ships. Massive ships that blocked the sun. Dr. Han Juwoo was in her office at the university when the lights flickered. At first, she thought it was just a power outage. Then her phone began to buzz with emergency alerts. She looked out her window and saw them. Huge metal structures floating silently above the city. "What on earth?" she whispered, pressing her hand against the cool glass. The university speakers crackled to life. "All staff and students must go to the basement shelters immediately. This is not a drill." Han grabbed her bag and her most important research notes. As a leading paleontologist who studied Earth's most dangerous prehistoric predators, she had valuable knowledge. Though she couldn't imagine how that would help now. The hallways filled with scared people running and pushing. Han moved calmly, helping an older professor who had fallen in the rush. When they reached the basement, everyone gathered around small screens showing the news. They appeared simultaneously over every major city, a scared reporter said. "The military has attempted contact, but..." The broadcast cut to static, then changed to show a creature unlike anything Han had ever seen. It had gray skin that seemed both smooth and rough at the same time. Its 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. When it spoke, its mouth moved wrong, like it had too many jaws. "People of Earth," the creature said in perfect, emotionless Korean, "I am Commander Ta of the Doric Imperium. Your planet is now under our control. You have exactly 48 hours to surrender all resources and accept our rule. If you refuse, we will destroy your major cities one by one." The message repeated in different languages. Then the screens went black. People around Han began to cry or argue. Some said they should fight back. Others wanted to surrender right away. Han stood silent, thinking about what she had just seen. The creature's bone structure was unlike any Earth species. Its movements were wrong in a way that made her skin crawl. Her phone rang. A number she didn't know. "Dr. Han Juwoo," a deep voice asked. "Yes, who is this?" "Admiral Park from the Defense Ministry. We need you to come to a secure facility immediately. A car is waiting outside the east entrance." "Why me?" Han asked. "I study extinct animals. How could that possibly help now?" There was a pause. "Because, Doctor, you are the world's leading expert on the most dangerous predator that ever lived on Earth. And we might need that knowledge very soon." The line went dead. Outside, a black car with military plates waited. 2 soldiers opened the door for her. As they drove through the panicked streets, Han saw people rushing to stores for supplies. Some prayed in the middle of the road. Others just stood staring up at the massive ships that now covered the sky like metal clouds. The car took her to a mountain base outside the city, deep underground. Admiral Park met her. His uniform was pressed, but his eyes looked tired. "Thank you for coming, Dr. Han," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "I still don't understand why I'm here," she replied. Admiral Park pointed to a heavy metal door. 5 years ago, we found something in Antarctica, something that predates even the dinosaurs. We've kept it frozen because, frankly, we were afraid of it." The Admiral's eyes met hers. "But now, we're more afraid of them." He pointed upward, toward the alien ships above. "What exactly did you find?" Han asked, her heart beating faster. "Let me show you," Park said, placing his hand on a scanner. The massive door began to slide open, revealing a dark chamber beyond. "Dr. Han, meet Project Nemesis, possibly Earth's only hope." The chamber was freezing cold. Han's breath made small clouds in the air. In the center stood a massive glass tank filled with clear blue liquid. Floating inside was something that made Han stop in her tracks. "What is that?" she whispered. The creature in the tank was about the size of a small car. Its skin was dark gray with patches of blue. It had 6 powerful limbs ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through metal. Its head was long with rows of teeth that reminded Han of both sharks and crocodiles. But most disturbing were the eyes, closed now, but clearly large and set forward like a predator's. We don't know exactly, Admiral Park said. We call it Nemesis. A research team found it 5 years ago, while drilling ice cores in Antarctica. It was frozen 2 miles down in ice that hadn't melted for millions of years. Dr. Kim Do-yeon, a military scientist, stepped forward with a tablet. At first we thought it was just a well-preserved fossil. Then we noticed its cells were still alive, just dormant. Han walked slowly around the tank. Her expert eyes saw things others might miss. The way the muscles connected to the skeleton, the shape of the skull that suggested a large brain, the special scales that looked like they could change color. "This is impossible," she said. "No creature like this ever existed on Earth." "I would know." "That's what we thought too," Dr. Kim said. "But the DNA tests confirm it. This creature evolved on Earth, but it's from a time period we know almost nothing about. It's at least 250 million years old." Admiral Park pointed to screens showing data. "It has abilities we can barely understand. Its skin can resist temperatures that would kill any other animal. Its cells can repair damage at an amazing speed. And look at these brain scans. Its neural structure is more complex than a dolphin's." Han shook her head in disbelief. "Why have I never heard of this discovery? This would change everything we know about evolution." "Because," Admiral Park said quietly, "we were afraid. In the small samples we tested, the cells showed aggressive growth. The few tissues we managed to activate tried to adapt, take over other cells. We decided it was too dangerous." Dr. Kim showed Han more images on his tablet. The ice around it contained fossilized remains of other creatures, all with signs of violent death. Whatever this thing is, it was at the top of its food chain. Han looked up at the creature again. Despite being the scientist who had studied predators her whole life, she felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold room. "So why show me now?" she asked. Admiral Park's face turned grim. "Because the Dorek aren't just here to conquer us. During their message, we detected signals scanning all Earth's life forms. Our analysts think they're cataloging species." "Like a zoo?" Han asked. "More like a harvest," Dr. Kim said. "The few communications we've intercepted suggest they collect unique biological materials from planets they invade." Admiral Park pointed up at the tank. "And we need to know if our nemesis here might be useful. It evolved on Earth. Maybe it could survive whatever weapons they use against Earth life." Han looked from the tank to the screens showing the alien ships hovering over cities around the world. The countdown clock on the wall showed 43 hours until the Dorek deadline. "You're thinking of using this creature as a weapon," Han said. It wasn't a question. "We're thinking of using everything we have," Admiral Park replied. "And right now, this ancient predator might be our best hope." Han stepped closer to the tank. The creature floated peacefully, unaware of the world it had awakened into, or the role it might soon play in saving it. "Then we better understand what we're dealing with," she said. "And fast." General Bake slammed his fist on the table. The room fell silent. 36 hours, he said. "That's all we have left. Our weapons can't even scratch their ships. What other options do we have?" They sat in a war room deep beneath the mountains. Maps and screens covered the walls. Each screen showed the Dorek ships hovering over different cities. One large screen counted down the hours until the deadline. Dr. Han looked at her research notes. She had spent the last 6 hours studying everything they knew about Nemesis. The creature was unlike anything in the fossil record. Its cells could change and adapt quickly. Its skin could resist extreme heat, cold, and even radiation. Its muscles were 5 times stronger than they should be for their size. "This creature is dangerous," she said. "Maybe too dangerous to use. If we wake it up, we might not be able to control it." Dr. Kim adjusted his glasses. "But look at these new scans from the Dorek ships." He tapped on his tablet, and a new image appeared on the main screen. It showed energy waves coming from the alien ships. "Their technology uses some kind of bioelectric field," he explained. "It's how they power their weapons and shields." Admiral Park leaned forward. And, Dr. Kim said, Nemesis produces a similar but opposite field. Look, he showed another scan, this one of the creature in its tank. The patterns are almost like mirror images. Han studied the waves. They did look similar, but reversed. You think Nemesis could disrupt their technology? It's possible, Dr. Kim said. In our tests, its cells generate bioelectric pulses unlike anything we've seen in Earth life. General Bake stood up. His face was serious but hopeful. Then we have a plan. We wake up this ancient beast and use it against the aliens. It's not that simple, Han objected. This creature hasn't been awake for millions of years. We don't know how it will react. It could see us as food. It evolved to be the perfect predator in its time. And we need a perfect predator now, General Buck said. The Dorak have technology far beyond ours, but they might not be ready for Earth's biological weapons. Admiral Park looked at Han. Dr. Han, you know this creature better than anyone now. Do you think we can control it enough to point it at the Dorak instead of us? Han thought carefully. The creature's brain was large, with complex structures. It might be intelligent in ways they couldn't understand, but it was still an animal with instincts. Maybe, she said finally, if we can figure out what it wants, what drives it. All predators have patterns. Nothing kills just to kill. Lieutenant Yoon, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Can we move it? If we're going to use it against the Dorak, we need to get it close to their ships. We have a transport that can take it to the orbital station, Admiral Park said. From there, we might be able to direct it toward their mothership. General Bake nodded. Then it's decided. Operation Nemesis begins now. Dr. Han, you and Dr. Kim will oversee the awakening process. Lieutenant Yoon will handle security. Han looked at the countdown clock. 35 hours and 42 minutes left. She thought about all the millions of people in the cities beneath the Dorak ships. Then she thought about the creature in the tank, asleep for millions of years, about to enter a world it could never understand. This is playing with fire, she said quietly. General Bake looked at her with tired eyes. Sometimes, Doctor, you need fire to fight fire. As they left the room to prepare, Han couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. But what choice did they have? The Dorak were coming, and Earth needed a defender, even if that defender might be as dangerous as the invaders themselves. The orbital station hung in space like a small metal moon. Through its windows, Han could see Earth below and the huge Dorak ships above the blue planet. A special shuttle had brought the tank with Nemesis inside. Now it sat in a reinforced chamber, surrounded by thick walls and heavy doors. The temperature is rising slowly, Dr. Kim said. He watched the computer screen showing the creature's vital signs. Its cells are becoming active. Han stood close to the tank, watching the ancient predator. Lieutenant Yoon and 4 soldiers stood nearby with special weapons. They looked nervous. Remember, Han told them, quick movements might trigger its hunting instincts. Stay still if it wakes suddenly. The liquid in the tank was getting clearer as the ice melted completely. The creature's skin seemed to change color slightly, becoming more blue-gray. One of its 6 limbs twitched. Brain activity increasing, Dr. Kim announced. It's starting to wake up. Han pressed her hand against the glass. She had studied predators all her life, but this was different. This creature came from a time when Earth was alien to them. It had evolved to hunt in a world they could barely imagine. Suddenly, Nemesis moved. Not a small twitch, but a full body motion. Its eyes opened, large golden eyes with pupils that changed shape as they adjusted to the light. It's aware, Han whispered. The creature looked around slowly, taking in its strange surroundings. When its eyes found Han, it stopped moving. It stared at her, and then something impossible happened. Han felt a pressure in her head. Not pain, but a presence, like someone was standing right behind her, but inside her mind. Images flashed through her thoughts. Strange landscapes, ancient seas, creatures long extinct. Feelings that weren't hers rushed through her. Confusion, hunger, curiosity. Dr. Han. Lieutenant Yoon asked, concerned. Are you okay? Han couldn't answer. She was transfixed by the golden eyes watching her. The mental pressure grew stronger. Now she saw flashes of stars, of darkness, of things falling from the sky. It's communicating, she finally managed to say. Not with words, with feelings, images. Dr. Kim looked at his readings in shock. The creature is producing powerful brainwaves. They're somehow matching your own brain patterns. Han tried to organize her thoughts. The creature was confused, lost in time. It had awakened to a world completely different from the one it knew. But it was intelligent, far more intelligent than they had guessed, and it was trying to understand. It's not just a predator, Han said slowly. It's a guardian. A guardian. Of what? Lieutenant Yoon asked. Of Earth, Han replied, still connected to the creature's mind. I'm seeing memories, or instincts. Something came from space before, long ago, and Nemesis kind fought them. The creature moved closer to the glass, still watching Han. It placed one clawed limb against the tank, mirroring where her hand was on the other side. It understands we're in danger, she said. It can sense the Doric ships. Admiral Park, who had been watching from the door, stepped forward. Can it help us? Can it fight them? Han felt a surge of emotion from the creature, something like determination mixed with ancient anger. Yes, she said, I think that's what it evolved to do. On the screens, Earth's countdown timer showed just 24 hours left before the Doric ultimatum expired. But now, for the first time since the aliens arrived, Han felt a spark of hope. Nemesis wasn't just a weapon they had found. It was an ally that had been waiting millions of years for this moment. And through their strange mental connection, Han knew one thing for certain. The Doric had no idea what was coming for them. General Baek straightened his uniform as he waited in the large meeting room of Earth's main space station. In just 1 hour, the Doric deadline would expire. The room was set up for the surrender ceremony that the aliens had demanded. Are you sure about this plan? Asked the woman next to him, the Secretary of United Nations. No, General Baek said honestly, but we need to buy time. The doors slid open. 3 Doric entered the room. They walked on 2 legs but looked nothing like humans. Their gray skin had a metallic shine. Their 4 eyes moved independently, scanning everything. The leader wore a kind of armor with glowing blue lines. I am Commander Tai, the leader said in that same flat voice from the first message. Are you ready to accept our terms? General Baek bowed slightly. We are prepared to discuss the terms of Earth's surrender. But first, we have questions about what will happen to our people. Commander Tai's upper eyes blinked. Questions are unnecessary. You will serve the Imperium or be removed. Removed? The Secretary asked. What does that mean? Species that resist are eliminated, Ta said simply. Those who comply become resources. While this conversation happened, another mission was underway. Far from the meeting, Captain Ryu led a small team toward the Doric mothership. They wore special suits that hid them from Doric sensors. Dr. Kim was with them, carrying equipment to gather information. Stay close, Captain Ryu whispered as they approached a small entrance on the underside of the massive ship. Remember, we just need to place the sensors and get out. They had trained for this mission in just 12 hours. Their goal was simple but dangerous. Plant devices that would tell Earth more about the Doric technology and find any weaknesses. Back at the space station, General Baek was stalling for time. We need to understand how the transition will work, he said. Earth has many different governments, cultures, resources. Commander Tai made a sound like metal scraping metal. It might have been a laugh. You misunderstand, the alien said. We do not want your governments or cultures. We want your biological material. The humans in the room froze. Biological material, the Secretary repeated. Your species has unique genetic qualities, Tai explained. The Imperium collects these qualities from planets across the galaxy. You will provide us with 10 million specimens per year. Specimens. General Boyk asked, his face pale. You mean people? People, animals, plants. All life forms have value to the Imperium, Ta said casually. Those not selected will continue their lives under our supervision. Inside the Doric mothership, Captain Ryu's team moved silently through strange corridors. They placed small sensors at key points. Dr. Kim took readings with his handheld device. Captain, he whispered urgently, you need to see this. They had reached a large chamber filled with containers. Inside each container was something that looked like a person, but not quite right. Some had extra limbs. Others had skin that wasn't human. What are they doing to them? Captain Ryo asked in horror. Dr. Kim scanned the containers. They're changing them, experimenting with their DNA. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. They've discovered us, Captain Ryu said. Plant the last sensors and let's go. Back at the meeting, Commander Tab received a message. The alien's posture changed instantly. You have deceived us, Ta said coldly to General Bake. Your people have invaded our vessel. A misunderstanding, General Buck tried to explain. The time for talk is over, Tai interrupted. The collection begins now. The Doric commander pressed something on his armor. Outside, the massive alien ships began to move into attack positions over Earth's cities. The deadline had expired, and the Doric were done waiting. The first attacks hit Seoul, New York, and Lagos at the same time. Beams of blue light shot down from the Doric ships. Buildings crumbled. The ground shook. Millions of people ran for shelter. In the orbital station, alarms blared. Red lights flashed in every room. Admiral Park rushed into the control center, his face grim. It started, he said. The Doric are attacking major cities. Casualties are already in the thousands. Han watched the terrible scenes on the screens. Through her mental link with Nemesis, she felt the creature's anger growing. It understood what was happening. We have no choice now, Admiral Park said. We have to launch Operation Nemesis. Lieutenant Yoon nodded. The transport pod is ready. We can send the creature directly toward the Doric mothership. Han looked through the window at the tank where Nemesis floated. The creature was fully awake now, its golden eyes watching her. Through their mental connection, she felt its readiness. It wanted to fight. The pod will keep it contained until it reaches the target, Dr. Kim explained. Then the outer shell will open, and the tank will break. Nemesis will be released right next to the mothership. Will it survive in space? Lieutenant Yoon asked. Han thought about the creature's amazing ability to adapt. I think that's what it was made for. They worked quickly to move the tank into the special pod. It looked like a small rocket with thick walls. As they secured Nemesis inside, Han placed her hand on the glass one last time. Good luck, she whispered. Through their connection, she felt something like determination from the creature. It wasn't afraid. It was eager. The pod launched from the station, shooting toward the massive Doric mothership. On the screens, they watched its progress. It would take 10 minutes to reach its target. But after only 5 minutes, warning lights flashed on the control panels. The pod's outer shell is breaking, Dr. Kim shouted. Something's happening inside. Han closed her eyes, focusing on her link with Nemesis. What she felt made her gasp. It's breaking free early, she said. It's not waiting. On the screens, they watched as the pod split open. The tank inside shattered. For a moment, Nemesis floated in space, exposed to the vacuum. Then something amazing happened. The creature's body began to change. Its skin hardened and thickened. New structures grew from its back, like small jets pushing it forward. Its limbs lengthened, becoming more like weapons. It's adapting to space, Dr. Kim said in wonder. It's evolving right before our eyes. Han felt a rush of images and feelings through the mental link. Ancient memories awakened in Nemesis, memories of battles fought long ago, and recognition. It knows the Dorak, she said slowly. Its kind fought them before, millions of years ago. Everyone in the control room looked at her in shock. Are you saying the Dorak have been to Earth before? Admiral Park asked. Yes, Han said, still connected to the creature's mind. And Nemesis evolved specifically to fight them. That's why its bioelectric field disrupts their technology. It was made to be their perfect enemy. On the screens, they watched as Nemesis moved with surprising speed toward the mothership. Several small Dorak vessels moved to intercept it, firing energy weapons. The beams seemed to slide off the creature's armored skin. Nemesis reached the first Dorak ship and tore through its hull with its powerful claws. The ship's lights flickered and died. Inside the control room, they stood in amazed silence. Their ancient defender was doing what it had been born to do. The human counterattack had begun, and the Dorak were about to face a very old and very angry enemy. Nemesis moved through space like it was born there. Its body continued to change, growing new features that helped it survive and fight in the vacuum. Its skin hardened into a shell that protected it from both space and Dorak weapons. The jets on its back glowed blue, pushing it forward with surprising speed. In the orbital station, everyone watched the screens in amazement. Nemesis tore through 3 more small Dorak ships, ripping them apart with its powerful claws. When the ships fired their weapons, the energy beams seemed to bend around the creature or get absorbed into its skin. The Dorak are sending more ships to defend the mothership, Lieutenant Yum reported. Dr. Han sat quietly in a corner, her eyes closed. The mental link between her and Nemesis had grown stronger. Now she could see through its eyes, feel what it felt. And what she saw was both wonderful and terrible. Dr. Han. Admiral Park touched her shoulder. Are you okay? She opened her eyes. I can see what Nemesis sees. I'm experiencing its memories. What do you mean, its memories? Dr. Kim asked, looking up from his computer. It was frozen for millions of years. Species memory, Han explained, passed down through generations, like how birds know how to build nests without being taught. On the main screen, they could see Nemesis approaching the Dorak mothership. The huge vessel was starting to move, as if trying to escape. The Dorak recognized Nemesis, Han said. In their communications, they're calling it the Devourer. They know what it is. Through the mental link, images flooded into Han's mind. Ancient battles between creatures like Nemesis and the early Dorak. The aliens had come to Earth millions of years ago, before humans, before even the dinosaurs. They had started to harvest Earth's life forms then too. But something had evolved to stop them. Nemesis and its kind. Predators with the perfect abilities to fight the Dorak. They had driven the aliens away from Earth, and after the Dorak left, these guardian creatures had gone dormant, waiting in case the threat returned. That's why we found it so deep in the ice, Han said in wonder. Its kind went into hibernation after the Dorak left. They've been waiting all this time. On the screen, Nemesis reached the mothership. Its claws dug into the metal hull, tearing open a hole. Alarms sounded throughout the Dorak fleet. Smaller ships tried to attack Nemesis, but the creature ignored them, focused only on the main target. Captain Ryu's voice suddenly came over the radio. This is Captain Ryu. We're still inside the mothership. The Dorak are panicking. They're evacuating. Can you get out? Admiral Park asked urgently. Negative, Ryu replied. We're trapped in a lower level, but we've placed all the sensors. We're sending the data now. Dr. Kim's computer beeped as it received the information. This is incredible, he said as he looked at the new data. The mothership runs on biological energy. They literally power their ships with the life force of species they'd harvested. Han felt sick. Through her connection with Nemesis, she could feel its rage growing as it tore deeper into the mothership. The creature understood exactly what the Dorak did to other life forms, and it had evolved specifically to stop them. Admiral, Lieutenant Yoon called out. Earth forces report the Doric ships over our cities are retreating. They're moving to defend the mothership. Admiral Park nodded. Now's our chance. Order all available fighters to launch. We attack while they're distracted. As human forces prepared to join the battle, Nemesis continued its one-creature war against the invaders. Ancient enemies were fighting once again, and this time, Earth would not be taken. Fighter ships launched from bases around the world. Hundreds of them rose into space, heading toward the Doric fleet. Captain Ryu's team had sent valuable information about the aliens' weaknesses, and Earth's scientists had worked quickly to adapt their weapons. All squadrons target the blue lines on their ships. Admiral Park ordered from the command center. Those are their power channels. In his fighter, Captain Ryu led the first attack group. He had managed to escape the mothership with his team during the confusion caused by Nemesis. Now he was back in the fight. "Copy that, Admiral," he replied. "Squadron 1, follow me. Stay tight and hit them where it hurts." The human fighters were small and fast compared to the Doric ships. They darted between the larger vessels, firing missiles at the glowing blue lines that ran across the alien hulls. When the missiles hit these spots, the Doric ship's shields flickered and failed. On Earth, Admiral Park coordinated the global defense network. Ground-based weapons locked onto Doric ships whose shields were down. Powerful energy beams shot up from hidden bases, striking the vulnerable aliens. "It's working," Lieutenant Yoon said, watching the battle on the screens. "They didn't expect us to know their weakness." Han barely heard them. She was still connected to Nemesis, seeing the battle through its eyes. The creature had torn deep into the mothership, ripping through decks and corridors. Doric soldiers tried to stop it, but their weapons did little damage. Nemesis seemed to grow stronger with each attack, absorbing the energy and using it to evolve further. "Their main power core is at the center of the mothership," Han said suddenly, the information coming through her mental link. "Nemesis is heading there." Dr. Kim looked at his sensor readings. If that core is destroyed, it could create a chain reaction. The whole ship might explode. "What about Nemesis?" Lieutenant Yoon asked. Could it survive that? Han wasn't sure. The creature was incredibly tough, but even it had limits. Through their connection, she tried to warn it of the danger, but all she felt in return was determination. Nemesis understood the risk and accepted it. Outside, the battle continued. Human fighters darted between Doric ships, drawing their fire while larger Earth vessels moved into position. The aliens were confused, fighting on two fronts, against the human fleet and against the monster inside their mothership. "Captain Ryu," Admiral Park called, "can you create a path for our main cruisers? We need to get closer to their command ships." "On it, Admiral," Ryu replied. His squadron flew in tight formation, targeting the weapons systems of the Doric defenders. "Path clear. Cruisers, move in now." Earth's largest space vessels, hastily armed with new weapons based on Captain Ryu's data, moved toward the heart of the Doric fleet. They fired concentrated beams at the aliens' command ships, disrupting their ability to coordinate. Inside the mothership, Nemesis reached the central power core, a massive chamber filled with glowing containers. Through her mental link, Han could see that each container held the essence of a living creature, harvested and used as fuel. The sight filled Nemesis with rage. "It's found their power source," Han told the others. "The core it's horrible. They're using captured life forms as batteries." Admiral Park's face hardened. "Then it's time to shut them down for good." Han closed her eyes, focusing on her connection with Nemesis. She scented all her knowledge, her understanding of what would hurt the Doric most. The creature acknowledged her guidance and moved toward the core's control systems. Across space, human fighters and Doric ships battled against the backdrop of Earth. For the first time since the aliens arrived, the tide was turning. Humanity was fighting back, no longer helpless against the invaders. And deep inside the enemy mothership, an ancient guardian prepared to strike at the heart of its age-old enemy. Alarms blared throughout the Doric mothership. Lights flashed red as systems failed one by one. In the power core, Nemesis tore through the last guards and stood before the massive central reactor. The creature had grown even larger, its body now covered with armor-like plates and weapons that had evolved from its limbs. On the orbital station, Han gasped as a wave of images flooded her mind through the mental link. She saw what Nemesis planned to do. "The mothership is trying to escape," Lieutenant Yoon reported, watching the main screen. "It's powering up its main engines." "Nemesis won't let that happen," Han said quietly. "It's going to destroy the core." Admiral Park looked at her with concern. "Can it survive that?" Han shook her head. "I don't think it plans to." Outside, the battle continued. Earth's fighters and cruisers pressed their advantage, targeting the confused Doric fleet. Captain Ryu's squadron shot down 3 more alien ships, clearing a path away from the mothership. "All Earth vessels, pull back," Admiral Park ordered suddenly. "I repeat, all vessels move away from the mothership immediately." Captain Ryu didn't question the order. "All squadrons, full retreat. Maximum speed." Inside the mothership, Nemesis reached the central reactor. The huge cylinder of energy pulsed with the life force of countless harvested creatures. Through the mental link, Han felt Nemesis's final plan forming. "It's going to overload the reactor," she told the others. "It's going to use its own bioelectric field to cause a chain reaction." Dr. Kim checked his readings. "That would destroy the entire mothership and probably most of the Doric fleet nearby." "But Nemesis won't survive," Han said, tears forming in her eyes. "It knows that." Through their connection, she tried to show the creature another way. But Nemesis had made its choice. It had evolved for this purpose, to protect Earth from the Doric, no matter the cost. Inside the mothership, Nemesis reached out with all 6 of its limbs, connecting with the reactor's control systems. It channeled its bioelectric energy into the core, disrupting the careful balance that kept it stable. The reactor began to pulse faster, glowing brighter with dangerous energy. Commander Tai and other Doric officers rushed into the core room, firing their most powerful weapons at Nemesis. But it was too late. The creature had locked itself to the reactor, and nothing could stop the coming explosion. In the orbital station, Han felt a final message from Nemesis, not in words, but in feelings and images, a sense of completion, of purpose fulfilled, and something like satisfaction. "Goodbye," she whispered. Then the mental link went silent. On the main screen, they watched as the Doric mothership began to glow from within. Cracks appeared in its hull, spilling bright light into space. Then, in a flash that temporarily blinded their sensors, the massive ship exploded, taking a large part of the Doric fleet with it. The remaining alien ships, suddenly without central command, fell into chaos. Some tried to flee. Others continued fighting but without coordination. Earth's forces pressed their advantage, destroying or disabling the confused invaders. 3 months later, Han stood at the edge of an Antarctic ice field. The area was now a research base, protected by a new global defense force. Scientists carefully studied the ice cores from the deep drilling site where Nemesis had been found. Admiral Park walked up beside her. "The last Doric ship left the solar system yesterday," he said. "Our new satellite network is tracking them to make sure they don't return." Han nodded, looking out at the vast white landscape. "They'll think twice before coming back." "Do you still feel it?" Park asked quietly. "The connection?" "No," Han said. "But sometimes I dream about it, about ancient battles and guardians sleeping in the ice." Park pointed to a new drilling platform. The deep scans found something. More signatures like Nemesis, but different. Possibly more of its kind. Han smiled slightly. "Good, because I don't think the Doric were the only threat out there. And next time, we'll be ready." Above them, Earth's new defense ships patrolled the clear blue sky, guardians of a planet that would never again be seen as helpless prey.